welcome to Film Don't Lie. This is our pilot episode here. I'm with Annie Schmidt, a peace studies and social justice graduate from DePaul in Chicago. And we're here to talk about a little bit deeper of a topic than usual, which is Art Briles. This series will actually be more based on scheme, X's and O's, something a little more lighthearted like that, whatever that we're seeing on film kind of a thing, and just going over that. Instead, today we're going to talk about Art Briles. On May 26th of 2016, he was fired from Baylor amidst sexual assault cover-up allegations. And on June 7th of 2016, on IronmanFootballBlog.com, I wrote a piece about Baylor and UCF and their rise to power and how it came through controversy at UCF. Almost every head coach that they've had has had some form of controversy, from Gene McDowell back in the Culpepper era to Mike Krzyzek with Ryan Schneider and some of the controversies there, into George O'Leary and Eric Plancher's death. And now they have a statue somehow with him out in front of the stadium, and how inside of that there's been this meteoric rise of UCF from a Division II program all the way up to Division I, and winning the Fiesta Bowl against Baylor, whose program was abysmal. As the basketball program took their rise, there was the homicide. You have Waco, Texas, and the issues that went on there to make it famous in the 90s involving, cult activity going on there. You have Brittany Griner and something that's a little bit more in a positive light and successful with the women's team. And then you have Baylor football and sexual allegations that where he was removed from office, as was Ken Starr of all people. And eventually, by February 2017, more evidence appears that this has been an ongoing issue, and it was systematic within the program. What we're here to talk to Annie about today is the question: does it take social media for sports organizations to make the right decision? Because how does Hamilton hire Briles and require the CFL to shoot it down only 15 months after he's fired at Baylor and is no longer allowed to basically coach in college football? So what's your opinion?
I think that in these days, social media is definitely necessary as part of the process. When you're looking at a social movement, there's a lot of work underground that a lot of people don't see. There's a lot of work in salons and just people talking and meeting up with each other, and you're able to say, this is wrong. And so you have different stages in that where it starts spinning and growing and getting bigger, and it really isn't until much later where it's actually publicly seen as a problem, and that you're able to try to get more support from stakeholders to make this a prominent issue, to say, no, this is something that we will not accept, and to empower people at that point. What social media does is that it helps connect people in ways that were harder before. Before, you needed to figure out, okay, where are the people? What is the message I need to send to get to these people? How are we able to get this message to the media? How are we able to move forward with this and spread the word about it? But through social media, it's clickbait activism. You're able to see a hashtag and say, what's this about? Oh man, I don't agree with this. You have news is now spread through social media. Facebook has the feed of what are the top stories of the day. You have the top hashtags. You see everything. And so it's a way where people are learning more, and through education is where we're able to spread the word more. And so, while it doesn't mean that it's, not impossible to do this, but I think in these days and age where everybody is on social media, this is how you're able to get movement started. And especially if you're looking at more drastically, like the Arab Spring, that's how people were able to let everyone know about what was happening. And you're able to mobilize people in a much greater way than you would have without it.
Yeah, and it makes me think of somebody like Jerry Rubin had social media in his time with the activism that he did at Berkeley and places like that. Maybe he wouldn't have to stand in front of a tank. The tank would have never shown up, because he would have been able to get out that message so fast. He had millions of followers back in his time. It took letter writing campaigns, expensive long-distance phone calls, and the idea of getting some of those student organizations on campus to get involved, and the way that they communicated, and the way that they had to come together was so difficult in his book, Just Do It, just talking about activism and leadership and, having a cause. If a cause isn't worth dying for, it's not a cause. When sexual assault allegations come out and there's a school-wide athletic program issue and that people don't feel safe to even be on campus, and it's not, there's a lot of issues at Florida State, for instance, where they have, some paths you don't want to take, but they're dark paths going to off-campus apartments. It's kind of, this shouldn't happen, but I know I should be in a lit path. I'm not comfortable walking on a dark path. And I don't worry, as a man, we don't really worry as much about sexual assault, although it happens to men just as often as women. We just don't report it. We're not as worried about that. What I'm more worried about is obviously getting robbed or killed. And I wouldn't walk down a dark path, but people still do because it's an easy route from on-campus to off-campus apartments. When you're investigating these situations, Joe Mixon, Ray Rice, Michael Vick, and the different things that come up with them, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning's possible issues at University of Tennessee, there was an era where these things were covered up. But now knowing full well that the internet is going to attack these, and rightfully so, come full on at these situations like Art Briles, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I'm amazed that there isn't a risk management person that when you sit down in these offices, in these meetings, that says, not worth it. Not worth the bad publicity. Not worth people banning coming to the game and standing outside the stadium telling other people not to go in. Not worth the social media outcry. Not worth becoming part of CNN, Fox News, ESPN, MSNBC on a negative light, making the New York Times, wherever, fansided.com, wherever you are out there, just getting your message across. Again, when we talked about the Art Briles situation on Coach Speak, which is a podcast we have for Iron Man Football, back in June of 2016. From then, Art Briles has had more evidence come up in February and March of 2017. So inside this calendar year, more issues have come around and have been brought up. It just amazes me that, does it take social media? Does it take regular people out in everyday society to make these professional organizations to make right choices? Because at the prep level, at the college level, obviously, he seems untouchable. The NFL seems at least semi-smart enough. Roger Goodell would have let Ray Rice come back, having seen the video already, which seems pretty hypocritical from some of his other opinions. But would they bring in Art Briles? He was in a camp for a couple of days. It was brought up, sort of disappeared. Hugh Freeze with his current situation with possible prostitutes. Were they for him? Were they for the players? No one's really quite sure involved in this situation. What do these professional organizations see that they are untouchable? Why is that? Why do they see they're untouchable? We can't really answer that per se. But as far as with your expert opinion, where do you see the difference between a high school that has to follow very strict guidelines and a professional organization that thinks they can just do whatever they want?
It's all with who you're reporting to. And, I mean, there's no, it's not a black and white issue, or it's not a gray issue. Sexual assault is wrong. Violence against women is wrong. Violence against children is wrong. And if you can't listen to that, and if that's not aligning with your values, what will you listen to? So at that point, you are valuing profits over people. And so if you're looking at that profits over people, what are going to be the things that are affecting those profits? So what are the ways that you can help get that word out? Voting with your dollar. What are the ways that you can say this is something that's going to affect your profits? And like I said, you should have a risk management person that says, as an organization, we value a family-friendly environment, sort of a thing. And it's like, okay, well, is this a family-friendly environment if you are bringing on people who are child molesters to play on the field? Like, I don't know. There's different, what are your values? How are you going to step up to this? How are you going to report to yourself? And I think with social media, and you're looking at these larger organizations, they are reporting back to the money that's coming in. They make decisions based off of how much money they are making off of their team, off of their players, off of the jerseys, everything off of this franchise. And so that is where people are able to spread more of the message and say, I will not stand for this. And at some point, people are going to start becoming more vocal. And I think a lot of people are very vocal about this, and they're trying to say, this is wrong, we're not going to stand for this. But through social media, there are more ways to help spread that message on different ways that you can oppose this.
Well, and it just feels kind of like after Richard Nixon's resignation, would Canada have brought him up to Saskatchewan to become some form of political office holder? I don't think so. But yet when it comes down to professional football and professional sports, we allow more people who are of unusual backgrounds, let's say, an unusual legal past to participate, and yet a Colin Kaepernick that is a charitable person, has been for years and years, and people don't realize that. Sure, there are times where people challenge whether he loves football, but it's because he actually has other real interests like charity and giving back to the world. Sometimes that becomes really cross when the Canadian Football League may not hire a Colin Kaepernick, but they'll hire our Briles. This has been Film Don't Lie, our pilot kind of episode here. Normally it will be on scheme issues. What's the zone read? What's a 3-3 defense? What are common coverages? Just kind of more scheme, X's and O's type things. But today we went a little more serious in the wake of our Briles issues and decided to talk about this. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. Thank you.